Great job, guys. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you today. Kicking off a brand new series, Love on the Rocks. Hey, you know what makes this life beautiful? Many things, right? But one of the things that we're going to be talking about throughout this series that makes life absolutely beautiful are meaningful, healthy, life-giving relationships. Most of us never think through how many relationships we experience throughout our lives. We have friends, family members, co-workers, supervisors, neighbors coming in and out of our lives throughout our entire lifespan. People we often see at coffee shops or drive-thrus, or the person who delivers the mail. I was reading this past week about how many friendships, how many intimate relationships, how many acquaintances we have throughout life. I'm sure most of us have never thought about that, but I found this quite interesting. The average person has about 300 to 400 friends throughout their lives, but only about 3 to 5 close relationships that we keep for many years. Family relationships, most people have 10 to 30 significant family connections, parents, siblings, extended family, etc. Romantic relationships, around 7 to 10 romantic partners, hopefully not at the same time, but that's spread throughout your life. Work relationships, the average person will have 12 to 15 different jobs in their lifetime, forming hundreds of professional relationships. Casual and acquaintances, some estimates, this blew me away, some estimates suggest the average person meets 80 to 100,000 people in their lifetime. That's how many people you actually meet, between 80,000 and 100,000. Of course, only a fraction become meaningful relationships. But at any given time, you have about 50 acquaintances, 10 to 15 solid relationships, and 3 to 5 close relationships. About 70 or a little more than 70 meaningful relationships at any given time. So I just thought that was quite interesting. All the people that come in and out of our lives, we rarely think about all the people that we meet, who we have acquaintances with, friendships with for a couple of years or so, and then we move or they move or we switch jobs, or maybe a neighbor comes in, we really have a great season with them, and then of course they move or we move from the neighborhood, etc. Just people are always coming in and out of our lives. But the relationships that matter most are the close, intimate ones, right? The ride or die. The people who are in your corner no matter what. The people who would support you even when you're wrong. They love you and they're going to be there no matter what. So here's the question as we begin today's message and kick off this new series. What holds a close, intimate relationship together? What is it? What is the glue that holds healthy, life-giving, meaningful relationships together? I think the first, answer we might give is love, and that certainly is true, but without this other quality, the relationship, even though it's someone you love, will not survive. So love is a significant, absolutely a must, but if you don't have this other quality, it won't last forever. How about compatibility? That's a big one, right? Relational chemistry, that's a must. But again, I know people who have chemistry, enjoy being with each other, laugh, talk, share, but without this one other quality, the relationship rarely survives. How about communication? Without a doubt. We're going to talk more about the need for good, healthy communication within this series, but once again, two people can communicate well, but without this other quality, the relationship will fall apart. Just give it enough time. So what is it? What is the glue that holds healthy, meaningful, life-giving relationships together? Here it is. It's trust. Trust. Without trust, there is no healthy, life-giving, love-centered relationship. Trust is the glue holding healthy relationships together. You might love someone, have wonderful chemistry, communicate effectively, yet without trust, the relationship, no matter how strong it once was, no matter how long you've been together, without trust, it will over time dissolve. Emily Dickinson wrote, "Hope is a thing with feathers." She means hope is fragile. It can fly away quickly. Something similar can be said of trust. Trust is collected in spoonfuls. What does that mean? It means trust can only be built a little at a time, one small piece at a time. Honesty, gentle actions, listening, caring, truth-telling, affection, faithfulness. And because trust is earned one small piece at a time, it requires a long time to collect enough to call it trust. So trust is earned one small act at a time over a span of time. Trust is collected in spoonfuls, but hear me well, trust is lost in bucketfuls. The person can be faithful, honest, helpful, kind, gentle, and you can collect a large amount of trust. But one lie, one offense, one explosive episode can open a gash in that relationship so large that what took years to build is emptied in minutes. You discover after many years of friendship, the person you thought was your best friend is secretly undermining you behind your back, lying about your character, manipulating your words, causing others to question your motives. It's a gash. You open your wife's purse to borrow her keys and find a handwritten note from a colleague at work saying, "I loved last weekend, let's do it again soon." And you realize that your wife said she was on a work trip last Saturday, and your heart sinks. It's a gash. A promotion becomes available, and your supervisor says you are perfect for the job. She encourages you to apply and reassures you that you probably will get it, but you don't, and someone else does. And after a few weeks, you find out your supervisor promised the promotion to another person months ago, and it was all a setup. It's a gash. On it goes. Trust is powerful, but fragile. Takes a long time to build and only a few minutes to crush. And once it deteriorates, it is difficult, if not impossible, to rebuild. And there are a few reasons why that's true. The glue that I mentioned, trust is glue, it's dissolved. And whenever whatever is holding a thing together dissolves, the thing is reduced to its parts. When trust dissolves in a relationship, the people are no longer unified as a whole. They are merely parts, 2 people, 3 people, 10 people. The unity is gone. The magic holding it together melts. Another reason is because we are hardwired for survival. And now this person, whoever it is, a friend, a colleague, a spouse, maybe a parent, a child, now this person feels unsafe. This person becomes a threat to my future. Who knows what she will do? Who knows if he will stay? Now I no longer am confident within this group. I don't know if they want me to be a part, and we avoid any person or group of people we deem a threat to our peace and safety. Another reason why is because you've heard this adage before: fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. In other words, if you lie to me, deceive me, break my heart, my peace of mind, that's your fault. But if you do it again, that's on me, because I allowed it. There's a deep-seated fear in all of us that we will be played a fool. And nobody wants to be made to look like a gullible idiot. And what I just described, that's exhausting. What? Trying to navigate around all the possible obstacles, the doubts, the mistrusts, the wondering if I'll be hurt again, lied to again, made to look like a fool again. And then there are the questions. What about forgiveness? What about restoration? What about the other people involved? This entire process, navigating around all of this stuff, asking these questions, trying to answer the questions. And do I forgive? Do I allow restoration to happen? Will I ever trust this person again? Should I trust this person again? What do I do about my heart that's broken? All of that stuff, it's draining. It's emotionally draining. And honestly, it is easier just to move on and start over. To admit you made mistakes and try not to make the same ones again. Get away from that person, get away from those people. But it's not that easy, is it? Because often the person who broke your heart, who broke your trust, is someone close to you, or a group of friends you invested in. You can't just move on from all those years of investment. What if the person who broke your heart is your husband or your wife and you have kids together? What do you do about that? What if it's your parent? I mean, do you walk away from your mother? Do you abandon your father? What if it's your best friend and you have friends together and you can't just walk away from the whole group, can you? By the way, even if you do move on, even if you do walk away, what about the wounds you received? What about your hurt? your shattered soul, your altered future? Who's going to do anything about the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the loss of appetite, the inability to trust anyone now? These wounds do not just go away. Just because you go away, just because you move away, doesn't cause all of the wounds to move away, to go away. Even if you walk away from the person, the group of people, even if you move on, the residual effects do not move on, do they? You were injured. You were and are wounded, and until you are healed, the wound affects all other relationships. The infection seeps into every connection, your kids, your friends, your marriage, your relationship with God. In fact, there are a few of you sitting in this room, a few people watching online, you have never quite understood why you struggle so much with trusting others, why you doubt that people really love you. Why do you question the loyalty of those around you? You don't want to question it, but it's like it's a haunting voice all the time. You're just not sure that people actually love you, want you to be a part of a group. You struggle with believing that God loves you or has your best interest at heart. And why? Because you carry with you the effects of trauma that you've experienced years ago, a deep relational disturbance that's never been healed. So how do you go about healing? Is there a path that one can take leading to wholeness again? I mean, can you work your way back? Or if you've been wounded, might you remain a wounded person forever? Well, let's open up these questions a little. I want you to hear me and hear me well. What happened to you, whatever that is, will always be with you. What she did, what he did, what they did to you, altered you, changed you, and affected you at a deep level. We are never the same when we are hurt. Our deep injuries do not fade away with time. When someone lies about you, cheats you, betrays you, you do not just get over it by an act of the will. You cannot simply forget what happened. And this is especially true with relational wounds. I'd rather be physically assaulted than relationally assaulted. I'd rather you slap me than betray me. At least I can see it coming, prepare for it, and the black eye and the fat lip will eventually heal. But not so easy with relational wounds. They sting the soul. They puncture our humanity. So today and throughout this series, we are taking a look at various relational wounds and how to begin healing. We will look at each wound and address it from the perspective of the victim, the one who has been wounded. And today, I want to dive deep into our first relational wound, and that is broken trust. How do you move toward healing? Because if I could list the steps, many of you would start walking them today. Just tell me, just cut through the chase, Scott. Just give me the 3 steps. Give me the 4 things that I ought to do, and I'll start doing them before I get home today. Just tell me, how do I get healed from what's happened to me? Well, I've got some disappointing news. There are no steps. Meaning there is no linear process to follow. There is no do this, then do this, then do this, and you will be healed and you'll be on your way in a month or 2. And everybody's journey is different, and everyone moves at different speeds. Why? Because everyone's wounds are different, and everyone heals differently. And also, healing from relational wounds is complex. So what I'm giving you today, not simple steps, not 1, 2, 3. I'm giving you observations. I'm giving you knowledge. I'm giving you experience and wisdom and truth that you can carry with you on your journey toward healing. And if I offer something that you can use, take it, pack it, use it. If not, pray for the other wounded people in the room. And you're going to want to take notes on this today. First, you've got to learn to sit in the pain. You must acknowledge the reality of the wound, feel what you are feeling, and feel all of it. And here's the one reason that this is significant. When we are in pain, the natural response is to get away from the pain, to numb the pain as quickly as possible. Well, if you have a headache or a toothache or your back is sore, over-the-counter medication works pretty well. Some ointment rubbed on your sore knee, might deaden the pain, but what over-the-counter medication can you take for a broken heart, for a crushed spirit, for a wounded soul? And what we often do is we find easier and listen, often darker alternatives. In other words, we self-medicate. And all of it is in an effort not to feel the pain of betrayal, the lies. We want to numb the fear that we have of the future. We want to forget what he did. We want to forget what she said. But feelings are meant to be felt. They are intended to be acknowledged. They are designed to be experienced. Why? Because they reveal a lot about us. They highlight where we're weak, what lies we continue to believe, and they help gauge our progress. How well are we doing toward healing? Numbing our feelings often delays our healing, masks how deep and complicated are the wounds, and disrupts the process. And depending on what we choose to numb the pain with, sometimes these self-medicating alternatives create additional problems and eventually more wounds. And then we're worse than we were at the beginning. This is the last comment I'll make about this first observation. What you experienced is real. And I want you to hear me very well. If you are hurting this morning, if you've been betrayed, your heart is broken, your spirit is crushed, you are spinning still from what someone has done to you, is doing to you, I want you to know that your experience is real, and relational wounds are especially difficult because your soul was violently assaulted. The sacred bond was torn. The wounds are jagged, and they do not heal easily. And that trauma deserves to be acknowledged, felt, and processed, and you cannot do it by numbing out. Number two, know your direction in life is altered. Slightly, possibly greatly. You have to accept this reality and refuse to live in denial. Let me explain. You cannot, I cannot, we cannot have our hearts broken, our souls crushed, our dreams smashed, and our direction remain the same. It doesn't work that way. The route you were on has changed. Even if you stay in your home, remain with your kids, keep your same job, keep your same name, keep your same groups of friends, you have changed. And when you change, everything changes. How you see life changes, who you trust changes, how you perceive yourself changes, what you want in life changes, how you make decisions change. New opportunities will come your way. New consequences and rewards will follow. Everything in your life is going to be different, and there's nothing you can do about that. And I know that stings, but it is a reality we have to accept. We do not live on a deserted island. We live and process life with people, and these people can and often do change how we experience life. These people can and often do make decisions that hurt us, wound us, stab us in the soul, and because of that, our future is changed. And probably the most well-known story in Scripture of betrayal, other than Judas betraying Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, other than that story, it's the story of Joseph being betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. If you know the story and all the details that go with it, it's a fascinating story. If you do not know, I'm not going to be able to have the time today to give you all the details. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis and kind of point out a few things out of Joseph's life and apply them to your own life, because this man was betrayed deeply, and how he responded to the betrayal and what he did in that season of his life determined the outcome of his life and the outcome of other people. Now, before Joseph, you need to know this, before Joseph was betrayed, life was pretty good for him. It was simple, it was predictable, it was prosperous. He was loved by his father, and no doubt he had a positive future planned. But the betrayal by his brothers changed everything. Joseph was never the same. Joseph went from a comfortable bed to a cold dark pit. He went from enjoying delicious meals around a family table to not knowing when his next meal would come. He went from living with his family to living with prisoners. He went from loving life to despairing of life. He journeyed to other countries, met strange people, punished for crimes he didn't commit, and given responsibilities for which he wasn't trained. Joseph went from being a son to a slave in a matter of minutes, from bringing his father great joy to breaking his father's heart, alive in the morning and presumed to be dead by that afternoon. Nothing remained the same in Joseph's life, and there was nothing he could do about it. Other people made horrible, terrible, wicked, and evil decisions, and it changed the direction of Joseph's life. He didn't make the choice that ultimately altered his entire life. Other people made those choices, and he had to live out the results. That's exactly how it's like for some of us right here. Other people made horrible decisions in your life. It could have been your parents. It could have been your first wife, your first husband. It could be a best friend. It could be an employer, a colleague. Someone else made a decision or a series of decisions that brought pain and devastation to your life, and you are no longer the same, and the direction of your life has been altered. That is Joseph. And nothing is the same in your life. You think differently, you feel differently, you trust less, you doubt more, you carry scars, you carry memories, you have the cares and concerns that you didn't used to carry, and now they're on your back, and you carry them with you everywhere you go. Just know, trauma changes you. Your friend circle changes. Maybe your career changes, your sleep pattern, your eating habits. Maybe now you don't see your kids as often as you used to because you had to go through the divorce, and now your kids are here one weekend and there one weekend. Maybe where you live is different. Maybe your retirement plan is different. Everything in your life. That's just the nature of living and doing life with people. Here's the third point that I want to make. But when you walk with integrity, during the season of your life, during this painful moment, even though your heart is broken, even though your dreams are shattered, when you walk with integrity, when you work your way through healing, when you learn, grow, and are renovated, you will see the beauty and the benefits of the alternate journey. Let me show you what I mean. Back to Joseph. When Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, who sold him into slavery. If you don't know the story, they sold him into slavery. I don't know how you could be betrayed any worse that your own siblings take you and sell you into the slave trade. The brothers who sold him never expected to see him again. And Joseph never thought he would see them again either. And as far as they knew, he was a slave in a distant land and he would die a slave. They moved on with their lives, trying to forget all that they knew about him. But things didn't turn out the way they thought. After he was sold into slavery, it's a long story. You have to go and read all the details yourself, found in the book of Genesis, and we'll get to a couple scriptures here in a moment and you'll see. But you read the whole story after he was sold into slavery because of his character, his wisdom, his integrity, his leadership. Slowly, he was eventually promoted to being second in command of Egypt, just under the Pharaoh. And eventually, years after this, his brothers sold him into slavery. Joseph's brothers were required to go to Egypt to purchase grain because there was a famine in all the land and people were starving to death. And Egypt had a large amount of grain stored, and they leave their country, they go to Egypt and they purchase, they try to get grain. And when they show up, Joseph happens to be in charge of all the grain distribution in Egypt. They think he's a slave. They think he's possibly dead. And instead, he's in control of making the decision of who gets grain and who doesn't get grain. Those who sold Joseph into slavery are now at the mercy of Joseph. Joseph has the power to repay them, to take out revenge on them, to cause them to suffer and regret what they did to him. Joseph is now large and in charge. Oh, how the tables have turned. You got to picture this scene. The brothers are at the mercy of the powers of Egypt. Those in charge in Egypt can let them live or can kill them. And Joseph is the one who makes the decision. Long story short, Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers, and this is how it goes down. Watch this, Genesis 45. I am Joseph. He said to his brothers, is my father still alive? But the brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. For years, they thought he was dead or a slave in a distant land. Imagine how they felt. The shock, the fear, the stress. What now? We betrayed him. We lied about him. We left him for dead. He will no doubt kill us all. And Joseph said, please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer. And he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. Joseph's brothers betrayed him. They did not love him. They hated him. They could not have cared any less for Joseph. They wanted him out of their lives, and they did whatever they had to do to get rid of him. They sold him into slavery. And Joseph looks at his brothers and says, you sold me into slavery, but don't be upset. And don't be angry with yourselves for selling me into this place. It was God who sent me here, ahead of you, to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravished the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. Watch this. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of all of Egypt. Did you notice how Joseph said, you did this, and then turns right around and says, God did this. You did this. God did this. You'll see it again in just a moment. You did this. God did this. Just pay attention to that. Now we're going to go to the last passage about Joseph in Genesis 50. Watch this. After burying Jacob, after Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, they go back home to visit dad. Dad dies. They bury dad, come back to Egypt. After burying Jacob, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had accompanied him to his father's burial. But now that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers became fearful. They were thinking maybe he was only kind to us because dad was alive. Now Joseph will show his anger and pay us back for all the wrong we did to him. All the wrong we did to him, they said. Watch this. So they sent this message to Joseph. Before your father died, he instructed us to say to you, please forgive your brothers for the great wrong they did to you, for their sin is treating you so cruelly. We did that. So the servants of the God of your father beg you to forgive our sin. When Joseph received the message, he broke down and wept. Then his brothers came and threw themselves down before Joseph. Look, we are your slaves, they said. But Joseph replied, don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? Watch this. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I will continue to take care of you and your children. So he reassured them by speaking kindly to them. Did you see it again? You did this. God did this. You did this. God did this. Listen, this is what Joseph said to his brothers. You intended to destroy my life. You bound me in chains. You threw me into a pit. You saw me as worthless. You sold me into the slave trade. You hated me. You were jealous of me. You wanted me gone. And you tried your best to extinguish me. All of that is absolutely true. And Joseph did not deny any of it, but it wasn't finished. But God. But God reached down his hand of grace and pulled me up out of that messy cistern slave trade, rewrote my story, and has done something amazing with the mess you created. Two things can be true at the exact same time. Someone can laser focus on destroying your life, and from all the people who see it from the outside and from your experience on the inside, they have succeeded. But your story isn't finished. God can reach into that mess, pull you out, and rewrite the rest of your life. If you know the story of Joseph, then you know that there were several times when Joseph could have fallen off the path. He could have taken a worse detour. He could have made some horrible decisions. And to be honest, if he would have, I'm not sure he would have ended up in the position of power that he was in Egypt. But he maintained his integrity. He maintained his wisdom. He maintained his direction no matter what happened. Here are some examples. He could have killed someone out of anger. If you were treated that way, you were thrown into a cistern, sold into the slave trade, given up for dead, maybe you would be so angry you would take out your anger on someone. He could have done that. He could have slept with Potiphar's wife when she tempted him. We'll talk about that in just a moment. He could have stolen valuables from Potiphar when he lived in his home. He could have sent for his brothers and had them killed as soon as he became second in command over all of Egypt. There were many opportunities for Joseph to have taken really bad turns. And you know what? If he would have taken bad turns in the middle of all that mess, I think that he would have justified any and all of it. And I don't know anybody looking into that situation would have blamed him. Look what I've been through. Joseph could have said, I deserve to have Miss Potiphar. After everything that they've done to me, they deserve to die. Everything I own has been taken from me. So a little bit of gold and a little bit of silver from Potiphar, he'll never miss it. I deserve it. But he didn't. In all that Joseph endured, he didn't sin. And some of you need to think through what you've experienced, and you need to acknowledge both of these truths at the exact same time. You need to say, you need to look at that person, maybe in person, maybe in prayer, maybe in meditation, maybe in a letter. I don't know, but you need to look at the people who have caused you such pain, and you need to say to them, you cheated on me. You didn't care about my feelings. You didn't care about my heart. You didn't care about my future. You molested me. You destroyed my innocence. You discarded my sexuality. You're my peace and my confidence. You lied about me. You made me look so bad in front of others. You wanted me to fail. You desired my downfall, and you cheered when I fell. You used me. You took advantage of me. You manipulated my trust in you. You lied to my face. You made me believe you. You didn't care. I followed your lead, and you led me over the edge and eventually over a cliff. Some of you need to say exactly what Joseph said to the people who've caused you most pain. You meant this for evil. But God is going to take every single thing that you did, and he is going to weave it together not only for my good, but for the good of other people too. Now, there are two critical things you need to know in this. One, and this hopefully will encourage you. It was many years past. If you can give me that back, Carla Beth, if you can give me that back, it's not working. It was many years Okay. Let's go all the way back. There we go. It was many years before Joseph could finish the statement with, but God meant it for good. Many years. He certainly couldn't say it in the bottom of the pit. He couldn't say it when he was chained and carried off into slavery. He didn't believe it whenever he was put in prison, when he was tempted and accused of rape. He took a long time before that final part became true. Number two, if you walk in integrity. So the question is, will you walk in integrity? So you can see God turn what you're going through into something good. Will you maintain a positive direction long enough to witness what God will do in your situation? Or will you abandon it, seek revenge, plot those people's destruction, become bitter, and lose your way? Well, Scott, I want to do what's right. I want to be able to look back one day and see how God turned everything around. So I want to do it the right way. How do I ensure that I do it the right way? Well, every situation is slightly different. There's no easy way, no one way. I can't give you exactly what to do, but I can give you a simple overview. One, step back. Step back from everything that's happened in your life and get a bird's eye view, a big picture view of your entire life. Don't get lost in the details. No matter what happened to you, no matter what they did, even if it was your spouse and he cheated on you or she cheated on you or is cheating right now, your life existed before this person and your life exists after this person. Whoever did whatever they did, I know it hurt, I know it's painful, I know that you feel that you can't get over it, but your life's purpose and meaning is so much bigger than what that person did. When Joseph was lying at the bottom of that cistern, trying to wrap his mind around his brothers, throwing him into it and selling him into slavery, there's no way he could see the big picture. He didn't know what the big picture was. He didn't know that the power in Egypt and the favor of God was waiting on him. But when he saw the big picture, he rejoiced. He knew his life was part of something much larger, more robust, a greater story than living with his fathers and his brothers back home. And when he saw the story, the grand narrative, he was able to let go of the revenge. So step back. Number two, look up. This is about acknowledging your source of strength and the author of it all, God. One theme throughout Joseph's life, before and during the tragedies that befell him, is he always acknowledged God's involvement in his life. Here's one example, final example I'll give you today. Genesis 39. It says, Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. I think Joseph probably wrote that. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. But Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. Even though he had been hurt, sold into slavery, abandoned by his family, lied about, tempted, he still maintained his integrity. And the decisions he made in the season of pain determined what happened in the end. Through it all, he kept his focus and he acknowledged the presence of God. And lastly, you gotta move forward. This is about refusing to get stuck. To those of you who have been betrayed and you've lost trust, one of the greatest tragedies would be for you to get stuck where you are. Many people are stuck where the pain happened. If that's you, listen very carefully. Each year, you grow older. And each year, the person or the people who hurt you grow more distant. Your body grows, but for some of us, our emotions lay dormant and we are stuck where the pain happened. Let me give you a warning. Last time I'll talk about trust in this series. We'll move on to something else. So I want to give it to you today. I want to give you this warning. If you remain stuck, if you remain trapped in what happened to you, frozen in time, you will die. 2 Kings 7, I can't give you this whole story. You can read it on your own time. Now there were 4 men with leprosy sitting at the entrance of the city gates. I love this. Why should we sit here waiting to die? They ask each other. Why should we sit here? I don't know. Why are we sitting here? I don't know. We're just going to die if we sit here. Watch this. We will starve if we stay here. But with the famine in the city, we'll starve when we go back there. So we might as well go out and surrender. If they let us live, so much the better. If they kill us, we would have died anyway. Joseph kept moving forward. Now, I don't think that Joseph thought, I'm moving forward. He didn't know the end of the story. He just did what he was supposed to do in the moment. And if you don't move forward, you will die. Well, Scott, how do I move forward? Man, that's $1 million question, isn't it? So I'm going to give you one secret to moving forward when you feel stuck. And you don't know which direction to go and you don't know what to do. Here it is, very, very simple, but it can change everything for you. If you're not sure what to do, just do the next right thing. In every situation, Joseph did the next right thing. When he was sold into slavery, he did the best he could do where he was. He maintained his integrity. He moved forward. He was promoted. He did the next thing, right thing. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He maintained his integrity. He was promoted again. He did the next right thing. He maintained his integrity. He kept doing that, and eventually he moved from a pit to a palace. Do the next right thing. So the question is, of course, what is the next right thing for you? I don't know. I don't know where you've been hurt. I don't know who's lying about you, who's betrayed you, how long it's been. I'm not sure if it's on the job, if it's at home. I don't know if it's in your marriage, in a friendship, with your kids, with your parents. I have no idea what is going on in your life that has caused your trust to be smashed. But stand up from where you are. Notice your story is not over. And God is the one who will write the final chapters of your life. Trust him. And wherever you are, do the next right thing. And that day will turn to a week, and that week will turn to a month, and that month will turn to a year. And you will look back one day, and you'll be able to look at every single one of those people who hurt you, every one of those people who betrayed you, every one of those people, maybe even one person, and you will say, you meant it for evil. But God rewrote my story. And he will use this not only for my good, but for the good of others. Let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for this incredible story of Joseph that is found in Genesis. A story that does not pull any punches. It tells us exactly what happened to this man who lived with integrity, who was a good man, who had a good life, but people close to him, his own brothers, betrayed him, lied about him, sold him into slavery, broke his heart, broke his spirit, shattered his trust. God, thank you for an incredible example of a man who stood up and trusted you in the middle of it all and said, I don't know what's going on and I'm not sure what to do, but I'm going to do the next right thing where I am. And God, you took Joseph out of that pit and you rewrote his story. And thousands of years later, we're reading about a man whose heart was broken, but whose story inspires and challenges us today. Thank you for moving through this story into our lives. Thank you for challenging us and moving us in your direction. God, help us maintain integrity. Help us to maintain our focus. And help us to lean into you and trust that you are so much bigger than anything that's happened to us. And we trust you to rewrite it for us. And one day we'll be able to look back and say, even though they meant it for evil, God meant it for good. We ask all of these things in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen. Hey, listen, before Jose comes and finishes it out today. In a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to have an incredible experience here at Forest Park. The Watoto Children's Choir from Uganda is going to be here in both services on March the 2nd. It's going to be incredible. If you miss that day, you're going to wish you were here because people are going to say, did you come? Did you come? Did you see it? Were you there? You're going to want to make sure you're here, both in the 9 and 11 o'clock service. It's going to be incredible. We need some assistance, however. They're coming in on the Saturday evening, which is March the 1st, and we need some homes that some of the kids and adults can stay in for one night. They're going to get here late in the evening, around 9:30 or so, literally go to your home, spend the night. You bring them back here at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning, and that's it. So they're going to be at your house about 8 hours, something like that. Sleep, get up, maybe have some breakfast or something for them. 2 kids and 1 adult. Each home, 2 kids and a chaperone. If you are willing to help us with that, we still need a few homes. You can email my wife, Lana, Lana, at fplive.org, and she will make sure you get the details, exactly what's going to happen. So please let us know if you can accommodate this. We want to make sure that we're able to take care of them, and you're going to fall in love with them. You're going to wish you had more nights with them because they're just incredible kids, and we would love to help us out. So if you can help, please let us know. Email my wife today and let her know, hey, I'm available. I've got this kind of room or whatever, and we'll give you any other details. Okay? Thank you so much.